Ferriss. I'm gonna finish up where I left off last time in the book for the 4-hour work week. Hope you had an awesome day. All right. So we left off chapter 3, Dodging Bullets. And now I'm at Uncovering Fear Disguised as Optimism. See if I can blow this up some. Here we go. It's at 74%. There we go, 100%. The beautiful thing about YouTube is I can leave this video up and it just circulates itself around the block while I'm doing something after. So that's the beautiful thing about this video, or using YouTube rather. All right, Uncovering Fear Disguised as Optimism. There's no difference between a pessimist who says, "Oh, it's hopeless, so don't bother doing anything," and an optimist who says, "Don't bother doing anything. It's going to turn out fine anyway." Either way, nothing happens. Giovanni, founder of Patagonia. Fear comes in many forms, and we usually don't call it by its 4-letter word. That's okay, I'm gonna make it work. It's all right. Fear itself is quite fear-inducing. Most intelligent people in the world dress it up as something else: optimistic denial. Most who avoid quitting their jobs, entertain the thought that their course will improve with time or increases in income. This seems valid and is a tempting hallucination when a job is boring or uninspiring instead of pure hell. Pure hell forces action, but anything less can be endured with enough clever rationalization. Do you really think it will improve, or is it wishful thinking and an excuse for inaction if you were confident in improvement? Would you really be questioning things? So, generally not. This is fear of the unknown disguised as optimism. Are you better off than you were a year ago, 1 month ago, or 1 week ago? If not, things will not improve by themselves. If you are kidding yourself, it is time to stop and plan for a jump. Barring any James Dean ending, your life is going to be long. 9 to 5 for your working lifetime, or 40 to 50 years, is a long ass time. Oh, hello, darling. How are you? Thank you. Excel and decutting up. Awesome. Welcome to the live, y'all. All right. Is a long ass time if the rescue doesn't come. About 500 months of solid work. How many do you have to go? It's probably time to cut your losses. Somebody called the maitre d'. That looks Brazilian. Brock, Valenzuela. Location. That looks Brazilian. Siva Ma'azol. So that could either be Portuguese or French. Francais or Portuguese? So blue. Oh, the screen. You know, I don't know if I can change the screen color or not. I have never, oh. They do have screen things down here. I didn't know that. Hold on. I don't know if that would be better, but let me press it. They've got several choices down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me go with the dream thing and see if that changes anything. Not sure about the color, darling, but I'm going to get back to reading. I guess that's just the color it is, and me pressing that other one didn't really change it. Nice to meet you as well, Barack Valenzuela. Awesome. Okay. Sometimes timing is perfect. Let me see where I am. Someone called the maitre d'. You have comfort, you don't have luxury, and don't tell me that money plays a part. The luxury I advocate has nothing to do with money. It cannot be bought. It is the reward of those who have no fear of discomfort. Jean Cocteau, that's French poet, novelist, boring manager, and filmmaker, whose collaborations were the inspiration to the term surrealism. Sometimes timing is perfect. There are hundreds of cars circling a parking lot, and someone pulls out of a spot 10 feet from the entrance just as you reach his or her bumper. Another Christmas miracle. Other times, the timing could be better. The phone rings during sex and seems to ring for a half hour. He's hilarious. The UPS guy shows up 10 minutes later. Bad timing can spoil the fun. You know what? If the phone rings and it starts to ring like that, we're taking the phone off the hook. Catch the busy signal. Maybe y'all don't remember the old phones. We got used to cell phones. You took the old phone. It was a little rotary phone. And if it rang too much and got on your nerves, you just picked up the receiver and you put it to the side. That was an old school phone. Since we got the cell phones, if the phone is ringing, just turn the thing off until you finished. Till you have left the planet, orbited somewhere else, came back down, and when you have come back down from climaxing, then you may turn back on your phone. All right. The UPS guy, unless it's a package with some money or something, can leave the package on the porch. Y'all should have one of them little ring thingies. It looks up who's coming on your porch, and then it makes a noise or something like that. Or if you know your neighborhood and your neighborhood is safe, they can leave it on the porch. Or Amazon leaves a package on the porch and takes a picture and sends it to your email so you can leave a survey. So everybody should do that. So the UPS, this was written some years ago. So there's no excuse to stop sex. Okay? You have options. That should not be anywhere near bad timing. Jean-Marc Hachi landed in West Africa as a volunteer with high hopes of landing a helping hand. In that sense, his timing was great. He arrived in Ghana in the early 1980s, in the middle of a coup d'etat. We're about to learn some words here in a minute. I don't have any clue what a coup d'etat is. Hold on. There we go. Coup d'etat. It's French. D''ETAT. And coup is COUP. Oh. Okay. A coup d'etat, or simply a coup, is simply an illegal and covert attempt by a military organization or other government elites to unseat an incumbent leadership. A self-coup is when a leader, having come to power through legal means, tries to stay in power through illegal means. New word for today. All right, let me get back to what I was doing. There we go. At the peak of hyperinflation, and just in time for the worst drought in a decade. For these same reasons, some people will consider his timing quite poor from a more selfish survival standpoint. Jean-Marc Hachi. First time hearing him as well. He had also missed the memo. The national menu had changed and they were out of luxuries like bread and clean water. My gosh. He would be surviving for 4 months on a slush-like concoction of cornmeal and spinach. Not what most of us would order at the movie theater. Okay. I started thinking of cornbread. But, all right. Jean-Marc had passed the point of no return, but it didn't matter. After 2 weeks of adjusting to the breakfast, lunch, and dinner mush a la Ghana, he had no desire to escape. The most basic of foods and good friends proved to be the only real necessities, and what would seem like a disaster from the outside was the most life-affirming epiphany he'd ever experienced. The worst really wasn't that bad. To enjoy life, you don't need fancy nonsense, but you do need to control your time and realize that most things just aren't as serious as you make them out to be. Now, 48, Jean-Marc lives in a nice home in Ontario, but could live without it. He has cash, but could fall into poverty tomorrow, and it wouldn't matter. Some of his fondest memories still include nothing but friends and gruel. He is dedicated to creating special moments for himself and his family, and is utterly unconcerned with retirement. He's already lived 20 years of partial retirement in perfect health. Don't save it all for the end. There's every reason not to. Title of that was Wow, I Can Survive. There's a question and answer section before we move to the next section. I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened. Mark Twain. If you are nervous about making the jump or simply putting it off out of fear of the unknown, here is your antidote. Write down your answers and keep in mind that thinking a lot will not prove as fruitful or as prolific as simple brain vomiting on the page. Oh, thank you for the word illustration. Write and do not edit. Aim for volume. Spend a few minutes on each answer. When I used to go to full moon parties, y'all, listen, some of y'all may not know what full moon parties are. This is what we did. I didn't know it was in a book. The next step is define your nightmare, the absolute worst that could happen if you did what you are considering. What doubt, fears, and what if pops up as you consider the big changes you can or need to make? Envision them in a painstaking detail. Would it be the end of your life? What would be the permanent impact, if any, on a scale of 1 to 10? Are these things really permanent? How likely do you think it is they would actually happen? Next step. What steps could you take to repair the damage or get things back on the upswing, even if it's temporary? Chances are it's easier than you imagine. How could you get things back under control? What are the outcomes or benefits, both temporary and permanent, or more probable scenarios? Now that you've defined the nightmare, we call this shadow work. What are the more probable or definite positive outcomes, whether internal, confidence, self-esteem, or external? What would the impact of these more likely outcomes be on a scale of 1 to 10? How likely is it that you could produce at least a moderately good outcome? Have less intelligent people drawn this before and pull it off? Have less intelligent people done this before and pulled it off? Next, if you were fired from your job today, what would you do to get things under financial control? Imagine this scenario and run through questions 1 through 3 above. If you quit your job to test other options, how could you later get back on the same career track if you absolutely had to? Ooh, honey, what are you putting off out of fear? Usually what we most fear doing is what we most need to do. That phone call, that conversation, whatever the action might be. It is fear of unknown outcomes that prevents us from doing what we need to do. Define the worst case, accept it, and do it. I'll repeat, something you might consider tattooing on your forehead. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. As I have said, a person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. Resolve to do one thing every day that you fear. Eleanor Roosevelt actually quotes that, and he puts it in her book, but it doesn't say her name. I got into this habit by attempting to contact celebrities and famous business people for advice. What it is costing you financially, emotionally, and physically to postpone action. Don't only evaluate the potential downside of action, it is equally important to measure the atrocious cost of inaction. If you don't pursue those things that excite you, where will you be in 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years? Right. Honey, my creator's love for all religions. It don't matter what religion you are. The religion is love. Y'all missed the whole entire memo. Okay, let's keep going. If it involves hate, it is not love. It is the opposite of. Okay. Catch it later. I got into this habit by attempting to contact celebrities and famous business people for advice. Okay, hold on. Ooh. What is costing you financially, emotionally, and physically to postpone action? Don't only evaluate the potential downside of action. It is equally important to measure the atrocious cost of inaction. If you don't pursue those actions that excite you, where will you be in 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years? How will you feel having allowed circumstances to oppose itself upon you and having allowed 10 more years of your finite life to pass doing what you know will not fulfill you? And the reason you're on here talking about religion is because it teaches fear. Swallow that, okay? I need y'all to ingest that since we're having this live and y'all want to talk about religion. That has to do with control. Them controlling how the slave behaves in the matrix. Not saying that the Bible, the Quran aren't full of wisdom and jewels. Just know how to use your spell books when you open them. Okay. If you telescope out 10 years and know with 100% certainty that is the path of disappointment and regret, and if we define risk as the likelihood of an irreversible negative outcome, inaction is the greatest risk of all. What are you waiting for? If you cannot answer this without resorting to the previous rejected concept of good timing, the answer is simple. You're afraid. Just like the rest of the world. Measure the cost of inaction, realize the unlikelihood and repairability of most missteps, and develop the most important habit of those who excel and enjoy doing so. Action. The next chapter, which is actually chapter 4, is called System Reset, Being Unreasonable and Ambiguous. Before we go on to System Reset, at the full moon parties, we would write down anything that was hindering us from getting to our next steps. We would, things we wanted to work on, we hadn't been able to achieve yet, why we weren't able to achieve them. We would have the ancestors' table burning with the lights and things of that nature. We would have food to honor the ancestors first for Axie, which is known as energy. And then most ancestors like some sort of intoxicating beverage. So water was always on the altar, along with fresh flowers, alcoholic beverage, pictures of, depending upon what kind of altar you were working with. If I went to a full moon party and it wasn't at my house, then normally it was an ancestor altar. I had other altars where I was. And on an ancestor altar, you would just keep the pictures of your relatives who had passed that you pretty much looked up to for particular ideas or how they operated in the third dimension when their body was here, because energy is always here. It just gets recycled. So we would write everything out. We would tear it up. We would put it in maybe like an abalone shell or something like that, or a container that was equipped to hold fire. Incense lit to carry the smoke up to send the message, and then we would burn it, and we would let it blow if it was windy out to the wind. Or the ashes, you could put it in the flowing currency of water to carry it away. Or, one of my favorite, take the ashes of whatever issue it is that you have had and go bury it in the cemetery. Pay tribute while at the cemetery, like with some coins or something when you bury the ashes. But yeah. Oya is over the cemetery. OYA. And to the ancestors or to the gods and the goddesses, you pay some change. Okay? Like going to the temple and they want tithes and offerings. It's like that. You pay some change. Yeah. In regards to fear, it took me a long time. I'm actually an introvert. I'm an introvert. But I've had to learn, not had to. I've had to embrace the extrovert side of me. So, in regards to the poetry, the singing, doing the music, the live YouTube readings, and what I talked about earlier, I don't normally too much answer my inboxes, but I am I am in the marketplace. I am marketing books and everything else. So definitely more extrovert than what I formerly was. So I had to stop being afraid of some things. So those who have an issue with like public speaking or are uncomfortable in front of the camera, I've learned to become comfortable in front of a camera in more ways than one. I realize that everything about me that God made is beautiful. I am a masterpiece. So if that has been one of your fears, it is time to become comfortable. Okay? Let's get into system reset. Being unreasonable and ambiguous. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. George Bernard Shaw, Maxims for Revolutionists. Spring 2005, Princeton, New Jersey. I had to bribe them. What other choices did I have? They framed a circle around me, and while the names differed, the questions was one and the same. What's the challenge? All eyes were on me. My lecture at Princeton University had just ended with excitement and enthusiasm. At the same time, I knew that most students would go out and promptly do the opposite of what I preached. Most of them would be putting in 80-hour weeks as high-paid coffee fetchers unless I showed that the principles from class could actually be applied. Hence the challenge. I was offering a round-trip ticket anywhere in the world to anyone who could complete an undefined challenge in the most impressive fashion possible. She's quite clever. Oh my gosh. Valerie Love is having a challenge. Whoever wins the challenge gets I believe, a trip to like Dubai or a foreign country somewhere. I see where she got the idea from. Results plus style. I told them to meet me after class if interested. And here they were, nearly 20 out of 60 students. The task was designed to test their comfort zones while forcing them to use some of the tactics I teach. It was simplicity itself. Contact 3 seemingly impossible to reach people: J-Lo, Bill Clinton, D. Salinger, I don't care, and get at least one to reply to 3 questions. It's funny. Let me see what else he got. Of 20 students, all frothing at the mouth to win a free spin across the globe, how many completed the challenge? Exactly none, not one. There were many excuses. It's not that easy to get someone to, I have a big paper due and I would love to, but there's no way I can. There was but one real reason, however, repeated over and over again in different words. It was a difficult challenge, perhaps impossible, and the other students would outdo them. Since all of them overestimated the competition, no one even showed up. Wow. According to the rules I had set, if someone had sent me no more than an illegible one-paragraph response, I would have been obligated to give them the prize. This result both fascinated and depressed me. The following year, the outcome was quite different. I told the above cautionary tale, and 6 out of 17 finished the challenge in less than 48 hours. Was the second class better? No, in fact, there were more capable students in the first class, but they did nothing. Firepower up the wazoo and no trigger finger. The second group just embraced what I told them before they started, which was from contacting billionaires to rubbing elbows with celebrities. The second group of students did both. It's as easy as believing it can be done. It's lonely at the top. 99% of people in the world are convinced they are incapable of achieving great things. Which is 97 now, because of the book's timing. So they aim for mediocre. The level of competition is thus fiercest for realistic goals, paradoxically, making them the most time and energy consuming. It is easier to raise 10 million than it is 1 million. It is easier to pick up the one perfect 10 in the bar than the 5 8s. If you are insecure, guess what? The rest of the world is too. Do not overestimate the competition and underestimate yourself. You are better than you think. Unreasonable and unrealistic goals are easier to achieve for yet another reason. Having an unusually large goal is an adrenaline infusion that provides the endurance to overcome the inevitable trials and tribulations that go along with any goal. Realistic goals, goals restricted to the average ambition level, are uninspiring and will only fuel you through the first or second problem, at which point you throw in the towel. If the potential payoff is mediocre or average, so is your effort. I'll run through walls to get a catamaran trip through the Greek islands, but I might not change my brand of cereal for a weekend trip through Columbus, Ohio. If I choose the latter because it is realistic, I won't have the enthusiasm to jump even the smallest hurdle to accomplish it. With beautiful, crystal clear Greek waters and delicious wine on the brain, I've prepared to do battle for a dream that is worth dreaming. Even through the difficulty of achievement on a scale of 1 to 10 appears to be a 10 and a 2 respectively, Columbus is more likely to fall through. The fishing is best where the fewest go, and the collective insecurity of the world make it easy for people to hit home runs while everyone else is aiming for base hits. There is just less competition for bigger goals. Doing bigger things begins with asking for them properly. What do you want? A better question, first of all. Most people will never know what they want. I don't know what I want. If you ask what I want to do in the next 5 months for language learning, on the other hand, I do know. It's a matter of specificity. I have never seen specific with a city behind it. Specificity. I'll work on that. All right. What do you want? It's too imprecise to produce a meaningful and actionable answer. Forget about it. What are your goals? Is similarly fated for confusion and guesswork. To rephrase the question, we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Let's assume we have 10 goals and we achieve them. What is the desired outcome that makes all the effort worthwhile? The most common response is what I also would have suggested 5 years ago: happiness. I no longer believe this is a good answer. Happiness can be bought with a bottle of wine and has become ambiguous through overuse. There is a more precise alternative that reflects what I believe the actual objective is. Bear with me. What is the opposite of happiness? Sadness? No. Just as love and hate are two sides of the same coin, so are happiness and sadness. Crying out of happiness is a perfect illustration of this. The opposite of love is indifferent, and the opposite of happiness is, here's the clicher, boredom. Excitement is the more practical synonym for happiness, and it is precisely what you should strive to chase. It is the cure-all. When people suggest you follow your passion or your bliss, I propose that they are in fact returned to the same singular concept: excitement. This brings us full circle. The question you should be asking: is it what do I do, or what are my goals, but what would excite me? Adult onset ADD, adventure deficient disorder. Oh my gosh. Somewhere between college graduation and your second job, a chorus enters your internal dialogue. Be realistic and stop pretending life isn't like the movies. If you're 5 years old and say you want to be an astronaut, your parents tell you that you can be anything you want to be, it's harmless, like telling a child that Santa Claus exists. If you're 25 and announce you want to start a new circus, the response is different. Be realistic. Become a lawyer or an accountant or a doctor. Have babies and raise them to repeat the cycle. If you do manage to ignore the doubters and start your own business, for example, adventure deficient disorder doesn't disappear. It just takes a different form. When I started Brain Quicken LLC in 2001, it was with a clear goal in mind: make $1,000 per day, whether I was banging my head on a laptop or cutting toenails on the beach. It was to be an automated source of cash flow. If you look at my chronology, it is obvious that this didn't happen until a meltdown forced it. Despite the requisite income, why? The goal wasn't specific enough. I hadn't defined alternative activities that would replace the initial workload. Therefore, I just continued working. Even though there was no financial need, I needed to feel productive and had no other vehicles. This is how most people work until death. I'll just work until I have X dollars and then do what I want. If you don't define the what I want alternative activities, the X figure will increase indefinitely to avoid the fear-inducing uncertainty of this world. Oh, of this void. My apologies. This is when both employees and entrepreneurs become fat men in red BMWs. Not red BMWs. Really? I've never wanted a red BMW. Let's keep going. The fat man in the red BMW convertible. He got a whole chapter subtitle under System Reset about the BMW. Little red Corvette. There have been several points in my life, among them just before I was fired from True SAN and just before I escaped the United States to avoid taking an Uzi into McDonald's, at which I saw my future as another fat man in a midlife crisis BMW. My gosh, is that what we do? I simply looked at those who were 15 to 20 years ahead of me on the same track, whether a director of sales or an entrepreneur in the same industry, and it scared the hell out of me. It was such an acute phobia and such a perfect metaphor for the sum of all fears that it became a pattern interrupt between myself and the fellow lifestyle designer and entrepreneur, Douglas Price. Doug and I traveled parallel paths for nearly 5 years, facing the same challenges and self-doubt and thus keeping a close psychological eye on each other. Our down periods seemed to alternate, making us a good team. Whenever one of us began to set our sights lower, lose faith, or accept reality, the other would chime in via phone or email like an AA sponsor. Dude, are you turning into the bald fat man in the red BMW convertible? The prospect was terrifying enough that we always got our asses and priorities back on track immediately. The worst that could happen wasn't crashing and burning. It was accepting terminal boredom as a tolerable status quo. Remember, boredom is the enemy, not some abstract failure. Correcting course, get unrealistic. Oh, we're about to talk about leaving the Matrix. I can tell just by this subtitle. There is a process that I have used and still use to reignite life or correct course when the fat man in the BMW rears his ugly head. I will never look at the BMW ever the same ever again. Thank you so much, Mr. Ferriss. In some form or another, it is the same process used by the most impressive new rich I have met around the world. Dreamlining. Dreamlining is so named because it applies timelines to what most would consider dreams. For those that have joined, thank you for joining me. This is a recommended read, and I can see why. And since I needed to read it, I figured why read it by myself? So I am sharing the juicy, delicious, knowledgeable words of Tim and his experiences with us. Okay. It is much like goal setting, but differs in several fundamental respects. The goal shifts from ambiguous wants to defined steps. The goals have to be unrealistic to be effective. Unrealistic goals. It focuses on activities that will fill the vacuum created when work is removed. Living like a millionaire requires doing interesting things that not just owning inevitable things. Now it's your turn to think big. All right. Questions and actions. The existential vacuum manifests itself mainly in a state of boredom. Viktor Frankl, Auschwitz. That sounds Russian. Survivor and founder of logotherapy, Man's Search for Meaning. And Victor is spelled with a K. Life is too short to be small. Benjamin Disraeli. Dream lighting will be fun, and it will be hard. That's the truth. The harder it is, the more you need it. To save time, I recommend using automatic calculators and forms at www.4hourworkweek.com. Refer to the model worksheet on page 57 as you complete the following steps. What would you do if there was no way you could fail? If you were 10 times smarter than the rest of the world? Create 2 timelines, 6 months and 12 months. Enlist up to 5 things you dream of having, including but not limited to material wants, house, car, clothing, etc. Being a great cook, be fluent in Chinese, etc. And visiting Thailand, tracing your roots overseas, racing, ostriches, etc. in that order. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I haven't wrote a dream list. I mean, I do keep a wealth grimoire, but this is like a dream list right out. I haven't wrote a dream list in about 3 to 4 years. Tracing your roots overseas, racing ostriches, etc. in that order. If you have difficulty identifying what you want in some categories, as most will, consider what you hate or fear in each and write down. What I would probably do, I don't believe in keeping fears in books. So for the wealth grimoire, I would write everything I want to do as far as the dream list. And then on a separate sheet of paper, I would write down all the fears associated with obtaining what's on the dream list. Do not limit yourself and do not concern yourself with how these things will be accomplished. For now, it's unimportant. This is an exercise in reversing repression. Be sure not to judge or fool yourself. If you really want a Ferrari, don't put down solving world hunger out of guilt. Girl, one of my poems got a hold on. I use different cards and different poems. What? Ferrari engine red. Hold on. I don't even remember what the shit. Oh, I know what it was called. It was called a stingray. I remember now. In the waterfalls point. Solving world hunger. For some, the dream will be fame. For others, fortune or prestige. All people have their vices and insecurities. If something will improve your feeling of self-worth, put it down. I have a racing motorcycle, and quite apart from the fact that I love speed, it just makes me feel like a cool dude. There is nothing wrong with that. Put it all down. Now that's love. Drawing a blank. For all their bitching about what's holding them back, most people have a lot of trouble coming up with the defined dreams they are being held from. This is particularly true with the doing category. In that case, consider these questions. What would you do day to day if you had 100 million in the bank? What would make you most excited to wake up in the morning to another day? Don't rush. Think about it a few minutes. If still blocked, fill in the 5 doing spots with the following. 1 place to visit. No issue there. I got a lot of places I want to visit. Some of them on Earth and some of them not. 1 thing to do before you die. A memory of a lifetime. I've got several of those I want to accomplish in the works as well. 1 thing to do daily. Well, I've been walking lately, but some more yoga might be nice, and then some more swimming later on down the line when it's warm. 1 thing to do weekly. I've been doing it. I've been writing. 1 thing you've always wanted to learn. I wanted to learn astronomy. I didn't want to read a 400-page book on astronomy, so I went and I took the time and looked up the information myself and wrote a book about astronomy. The eclipse, to be exact. It took me 8 days. And it's still not 400 pages. It's only 214. With lots of pretty pictures in between. Told in a loving and funny manner. Let's keep going. 1 thing you've always wanted to learn. Yeah. I'm not that great at skating. That might be something to tackle. Skating is okay. If I was to learn something. Ooh, or it's been a minute since I've taken a sewing class. Refresh my sewing skills. I just normally leave that to the seamstress. I'll have to write out some things. It says 1 thing. I'm glad it says 1 thing because I can have a whole book of things. All right. What does being entail? What doing? What does being entail doing? Convert each being into a doing to make it actionable. Characterize a state of being or a task that would mean you had achieved it. People find it easier to brainstorm being first, but this column is just a temporary holding spot for doing actions. I know exactly what you mean. Great cooks make Christmas dinner without help. For Sif in Chinese, M. Haley, a 5-minute conversation with a Chinese co-worker. This man got around. What are the 4 dreams that would change it all. Using the 6-month timeline, star or otherwise, highlight the 4 most exciting and or important dreams from all columns. Repeat the process within 12-month timeline if desired. The 4 dreams that would change it all. Determine the cost of these dreams and calculate your target monthly income for both timelines. The cost of dreams. Somebody should have told me about the cost of dreams before I started doing the dreaming and putting it into action. I wish I had known all the cost of the dreams up front. It would have been nice to have had a little step-by-step portfolio with somebody showing me. I hear you. I hear you. That did not happen. I wish that would have happened. It didn't happen. I might have to make that happen. The cost of dreams. Things I wish I would have known ahead of time. Okay. Determine the cost of these dreams and calculate your target monthly income for both timelines. If financeable, what is the cost per month for each of the 4 dreams? Rent, mortgage, payment, plan, installments, etc. Start thinking of income and expense in terms of monthly cash flow. Now that's a reverse. Dollars in and dollars out instead of grand totals. Baby, the mind games and tricks of the trade. Things often cost much, much less than expected. For example, a Lamborghini Gallardo Spider fresh off the showroom floor at $260,000 can be had for $2,897.80 per month. I found my personal favorite, an Aston Martin DB9 with 1,000 miles on it through eBay for $136,000. That's $2,003.10 per month. How about a round the world trip, Los Angeles, Tokyo, Singapore, Bangkok, Delhi, or Bombay, London, Frankfurt, Los Angeles for $1,399. For some of these costs, the tools and tricks at the end of chapter 14 will help. Let's calculate your target monthly income for realizing you know what? While scrolling back to my spot, because it moved from my spot, I have certain books I keep on the altar. One of them is a Ferrari book. I forgot all about the Ferrari book. Here it is. Chapter 14 will help. Here's the Ferrari book. One moment. This is a heavy book. When I first got that book, when I was writing poems or doing storytelling, because you're supposed to think outside the box for the poems or the storytelling. And one of the money spells listed is to go, cost is not a factor, pick out anything you want, imagine it's yours pretty much until you get there. And start to have your mind gets used to working the lower numbers. Start to have your mind start thinking about higher numbers and high price tags. So I started, because you just heard me in my book read about the red Ferrari. I started with the red Ferrari. Then I went to things like other cars and things of that nature. But it started with the red Ferrari. Okay. Determine the cost of these dreams and calculate your target monthly income for both timelines. All right, so last, for realizing these dream lines, this is how to do it. First, touch each of the columns A, B, and C, counting only the 4 selected dreams. Some of these column totals could be 0, which is fine. Next, add your total monthly expenses times 13. The 1-3 represents your expense plus a 30% buffer for safety or savings. This grand total is your TMI and the target to keep in mind for the rest of the book. Oh, okay. So this night needs to be done like fresh wake up in the morning with your coffee type thing. I like to further divide this TM, target monthly income, TMI, by 30 to get my TDI, target daily income. I find it easier to work with a daily goal. Online calculations on our companion site do all the work for you and make this step a cinch. I'm so glad you said that. I was wondering. Thank you, Mr. Ferriss. Okay. He's an excellent cook. Mr. Ferriss, I wonder what kind of food you cook. That's what he got for dreams on this list. I'm going to show you a picture of this real quick. I'm going to screenshot this. I hope you can see it. I'm going to do it. Yeah, because I'm going to click that later on. So that's what he has on there. He got the car on there. Gold board from 1-800 personal assistant. Fluent in Greek, excellent cook, flexible. Places he wants to visit. He wanted a smart and gorgeous girlfriend. Now we know a girl being a girlfriend is a scam, but suppose if you got some money, it could come with territory. fund. I don't know what a tree fund is. Assigning task. I tell you what, let's just, there we go. Steps now. Being, doing, cost, now. Having and cost. Step of having, step zero cost. Okay. I can't wait to dissect that. All right. It doesn't say what the C equals money sign W means, but I'm sure, or B equals 0 with the dollar sign in front of it. Free intent for media. Step. I am sure I will figure it out. Let's see. There's a part 2. Month dream of target monthly income. That's the part 2. Okay. All right, so there's some math involved. I like math. Okay. Chances are that the figure is lower than expected and it often decreases over time as you trade more and more having for once in a lifetime doing. Mobility encourages this trend even if the total is intimidating. Don't fret in the least. I have helped students to get more than $10,000 per month in extra income within 3 months. My God. $10,000 per month in extra income within 3 months. Okay. Determine 3 steps for each of the 4 dreams in just the 6-month timeline and take the first step now. I'm not a big believer in long-term planning and far-off goals. In fact, I generally set 3-month and 6-month dream lines. The variables change too much, and in the future, distance becomes an excuse for postponing action. The objective of this exercise isn't therefore to outline every step from start to finish, but to define the end goal, the required vehicle to achieve them, TMIDDI, and build momentum with critical first steps. From that point, it's a matter of freeing time and generating the TMI, which the following That's nice. Let's go back through some more hoops. Which the following. You skipped me all the way, sorry y'all, to the whole next chapter. Listen, I want to finish this chapter. There it is. Which the following chapters cover. First, let's focus on these critical steps. Define 3 steps for each dream that will get you close to its actualization. Set actions simple. Well-defined actions for now, tomorrow. Complete them before 11 a.m. Sounds good. Library opens at 10. And the day after, again, complete it before 11 a.m. Okay. Once you have 3 steps for each of the 4 goals, complete 3 actions in the now column. Do it now. Each should be simple enough to do in 5 minutes or less. If not, ratchet it down. Oh, Timmy, should I use such a word with me called ratchet? I like ratchet. All right. If it's the middle of the night and you can't call someone, do something else now, such as send an email and set the call for first thing tomorrow. What am I calling somebody about? What do you mean? If the next stage is some form of research, I see what you mean. If you need to call somebody to set something up. If the next stage is some form of research, get in touch with someone who knows the answer instead of spending too much time in books or online, which can turn into paralysis by analysis. Oh, well. The best first step, the one I recommend, is finding someone who's done it and ask for advice on how to do the same. It's not hard. Other options include setting a meeting or phone call with a trainer, mentor, or salesperson to build more momentum. Can you schedule a private class or a commitment that you'll feel bad about canceling? Use guilt to your advantage. Tomorrow becomes never. No matter how small the task, take the first step now. There you go again. Just a minute. Comfort challenge. This ought to be good. The most important actions are never comfortable. Fortunately, it is possible to condition yourself to discomfort and overcome it. I've trained myself to propose solutions instead of ask for them, to elicit desired responses instead of react. And to be assertive without burning bridges. To have an uncommon lifestyle, you need to develop the uncommon habit of making decisions, both for yourself and for others. From this chapter forward, I'll take you through progressively more uncomfortable exercises, simple and small. Some of the exercises will appear deceptively easy and even irrelevant, such as the next until you try them. Look at it as a game and expect some butterflies and sweat. That's the whole point. For most of these exercises, the duration is 2 days. Mark the exercise of the day on your calendar so you don't forget. And don't attempt more than one comfort challenge at a time. Remember, there is a direct correlation between an increased spirit of comfort and getting what you want. Here we go. Learn to eye gaze. 2 days. What? Eye gaze. My friend Michael Ellsberg invented a singles event called eye gazing. It is similar to speed dating, but different in one. This gives me ideas. One fundamental respect. No speaking is permitted. It involves gazing into the eyes of each partner for 3 minutes at a time. If you go to such an event, it becomes clear how uncomfortable most people are doing this. For the next 2 days, practice gazing into the eyes of others, whether people you pass on the street or conversational partners, until they break contact. I can't see your eyes through the screen. I don't really talk to nobody up front and personable in my space like that. Eye gazing. That would require like a FaceTime or something. This is my FaceTime, honey. Hints. It's got a hint for eye gazing. Focus on one eye and be sure to blink occasionally so you don't look like a psychopath or get your ass kicked. In conversation, maintain eye contact when you are speaking. It's easy to do while listening. Unless I do this on the librarian. I thought you were an old... Oh, please don't let him say something smart. Oh, goodness gracious. Friend of mine. Oh, that's so sweet. I have a homework assignment. I'm going to complete my homework assignment this weekend. Sounds delicious. He said before we do the rest of the book. So that sounds like we're going to meet on Monday. That's what that sounds like. Okay. I thank you for tuning in. This has been most scrumptious and eye-revealing. And yes, I'm going to go answer my 3,000 messages now. For now. And then I hope you... Oh, I got to take a nap. What time is it? Excuse me, y'all. It's 12:42 a.m. I'm going to take a nap. And 12, it's almost 1. 1, 2. Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm normally up at like 3. I believe I'm going to sleep past 3. And 4, 5, 6. And get up around 6 so I can leave by 7-ish. Leave by 7-ish in the morning. To handle some things before the living. But who wants to meet to share their list? Like, who else is going to do the list? Do you mind sharing the list? We can schedule like a Zoom. Yeah. We'll schedule like a Zoom. Go over the list and what you learned, what you didn't learn, what part you'd like to tap into if you're having trouble figuring out how to do certain parts that's on the list. Maybe we can work it out together. Yeah. This is delicious. And then other tricks of the trade that I may have learned along the way to assist, or maybe there's something that you have that can assist me. All right. Okay, y'all. Have a pleasant weekend. Resume on Monday. If you do decide you want to do a Zoom or something personable, let me know, and I'll see what I can get set up for us. The next chapter that we will be going over will be E for elimination, the end of time management. Good. That sounds good. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Love tubers. And chit chat with you Monday, honey. Mwah.